Chapter 1: Adele's World. Port-au-Prince, Haiti. The sun was just beginning to peek over the vibrant skyline, painting the bustling streets below in a warm, golden glow. Adele stood at the edge of one of the city's many open-air markets, watching as vendors began to set up their stalls, arranging an array of exotic fruits, handcrafted wares, and fragrant spices. This was her domain, the place where she thrived. As a passionate tour guide, Adele took great pride in sharing the rich culture and history of her beloved homeland with curious visitors from around the world. With her infectious energy and deep knowledge, she would wind her way through the lively crowds, captivating her audience with tales of Haiti's resilience, its architectural marvels, and the enduring strength of its people. Today, like every other day, Adele arrived early, eager to greet the first group of tourists who would join her on an exploration of Port-au-Prince. As she scanned the crowd, her eyes landed on a young man standing somewhat awkwardly at the edge of the market, his gaze darting around with a mixture of wonder and uncertainty. Adele couldn't help but feel a touch of amusement. He was clearly a newcomer to the city, and she couldn't resist the opportunity to welcome him. "Bonjour, monsieur," Adele called out, her warm smile bridging the gap between them. "Welcome to the heart of Port-au-Prince. I'm Adele, and I'd be more than happy to show you around if you're interested." The man's face lit up with a grateful expression, and he quickly made his way over to where Adele stood. "Bonjour, mademoiselle," he replied, his French accent evident. "I'm Lucas, and I would be delighted to have you as my guide. I'm new to the city, and I'm eager to learn as much as I can about your beautiful country." Adele nodded, already sizing up this intriguing foreigner. "Bien sûr, Lucas. Let's get started, shall we?" She gestured for him to follow, weaving through the bustling market as she began to share her deep knowledge of Haitian culture and history. As they walked, Adele couldn't help but steal occasional glances at Lucas, curious about this man who had so suddenly entered her world. He seemed genuinely fascinated by everything she pointed out, his eyes wide with wonder and his questions thoughtful and insightful. Adele couldn't recall the last time a visitor had shown such a genuine interest in her homeland, and she found herself drawn to his open and curious demeanor. By the time the tour had come to an end, Adele and Lucas had struck up a lively conversation, their initial formality melting away as they discovered a shared passion for the vibrant and resilient spirit of the Haitian people. Adele was surprised by how comfortable she felt in Lucas's company, and as they parted ways, she couldn't help but feel a pang of disappointment that their time together had come to an end. "Thank you, Adele," Lucas said, his warm smile lingering. "I've learned so much, and I look forward to exploring more of your country. Perhaps we could continue our discussion over a traditional Haitian meal sometime?" Adele felt her heart flutter, both intrigued and slightly apprehensive by the prospect. "I would enjoy that very much, Lucas," she replied, her voice betraying a hint of hesitation. "But I must warn you, my family can be quite traditional. They may not take kindly to a foreigner in our home." Lucas nodded, his expression thoughtful. "I understand, Adele, but I'm willing to face any challenge if it means I can continue to learn from you and experience the richness of Haitian culture." He paused, his gaze meeting hers. "And perhaps, if you're open to it, I'd like to learn more about you as well." Adele felt a flutter of excitement, but also a twinge of unease. Her family was the center of her world, and their expectations weighed heavily on her shoulders. Still, there was something about Lucas that drew her in, a genuine interest and respect that she rarely encountered from outsiders. With a deep breath, she nodded. "Very well, Lucas. I will speak to my family and see if they would be willing to welcome you. In the meantime, I'd be happy to show you a few more of my favorite spots in Port-au-Prince." As they set off together, Adele couldn't shake the feeling that her life was about to take an unexpected turn. The intriguing Frenchman by her side represented a world beyond the familiar confines of her city, a world that both terrified and intrigued her. But for now, she was determined to savor this moment, to revel in the thrill of discovery and the promise of what was to come. Chapter 2: A Chance Encounter. The bustling streets of Port-au-Prince hummed with the familiar rhythms of daily life. Adele wove through the crowded market, her eyes scanning the vibrant stalls filled with spices, textiles, and handcrafted wares. As the tour guide for a small group of visitors, she was accustomed to the dance of navigating the city's lively thoroughfares, but today her steps felt lighter, her senses more attuned. It was in this moment, as she was describing the history behind a centuries-old Vodou temple, that Adele's gaze locked with a pair of captivating blue eyes. The stranger, a young man with neatly trimmed facial hair and an air of quiet confidence, listened intently, his expression a curious blend of wonder and intrigue. "And this temple," Adele continued, her voice softening ever so slightly, "has stood as a testament to the resilience and faith of the Haitian people for generations." She watched as the man's brow furrowed, his lips parting to speak. "It's remarkable, the depth of tradition and spirituality here," he said, his accent marked by the distinct inflections of the French language. "I must admit, I'm quite new to this country, but I'm eager to learn more." He offered Adele a warm smile, his eyes sparkling with genuine interest. Adele felt her heart skip a beat. Despite the bustling activity around them, it was as if the two were suspended in a private moment, the rest of the world fading into the background. She cleared her throat, suddenly aware of the weight of her tour group's expectant gazes. "Well, then I'm glad you've joined us today," Adele replied, her lips curving into a subtle smile. "There's so much more to discover in this vibrant city." She gestured for the group to follow as they continued their exploration, but her mind remained fixed on the enigmatic stranger. Later that evening, as Adele sat on the balcony of her family's modest apartment, sipping a fragrant cup of herbal tea, her thoughts drifted back to the chance encounter. She couldn't help but wonder about the man, his name, his story, what had brought him to Haiti. A part of her longed to see him again, to learn more about this foreigner who had so quickly captured her attention. Across town, in a modest hotel room, Lucas sat by the window, gazing out at the bustling streets below. His mind replayed the events of the day, the tour guide's captivating words, and the way her eyes had seemed to bore into his soul. There was something about her, her spirited demeanor, the pride that radiated from her as she shared the history of her homeland, that had left a lasting impression. As he reached for his journal to jot down his observations, Lucas couldn't help but feel a spark of anticipation. Perhaps their paths would cross again, and he would have the chance to learn more about this enigmatic woman and the vibrant culture she represented. The following day, Adele found herself retracing her steps through the market, her heart beating a little faster as she scanned the crowd for any sign of the French stranger. She chastised herself inwardly, reminding herself that she was here to work, not to indulge in fanciful daydreams. And yet, a part of her couldn't help but hope that their paths would once again intersect. It was as she was negotiating the price of a hand-woven basket that she caught a glimpse of a familiar face in the distance. There he was, the man from the previous day, engaged in what appeared to be a lively conversation with a local vendor. Adele felt her breath catch in her throat, and before she could stop herself, she had begun to make her way towards him. "Excuse me," she said, her voice soft but confident as she approached the stranger. "I remember you from my tour yesterday. I'm Adele, and I'm a guide here in Port-au-Prince." The man turned, his eyes widening in recognition. "Adele," he replied, a smile spreading across his face. "I'm Lucas. It's a pleasure to see you again." He extended his hand, and Adele felt a spark of electricity as their fingers met. "I'm glad we've run into each other," Adele continued, her confidence bolstered by Lucas's warm response. "If you're free, perhaps I could show you a few more of the city's hidden gems." Lucas nodded enthusiastically. "I would be honored," he said, his gaze locked on Adele's. "Lead the way, and I'll follow." As the two set off through the winding streets, Adele could feel the familiar weight of her family's expectations bearing down on her. But in that moment, as she walked beside this intriguing stranger, she found herself unburdened, her senses alive with the promise of discovery and the thrill of the unknown. Chapter 3. Navigating the Divide. Adele clutched Lucas's hand tightly as they approached the small, brightly painted house she had called home her entire life. Though she had imagined this moment countless times, the butterflies in her stomach refusing to settle, she couldn't help but feel a surge of apprehension. How would her family, deeply rooted in Haitian tradition, react to the introduction of this French stranger into their lives? As they stepped through the doorway, Adele's mother, Claudette, greeted them with a warm embrace, her eyes immediately finding their intertwined fingers. Adele felt a lump rise in her throat, knowing the barrage of questions and concerns that would soon follow. "Adele, my dear, who is this you've brought home?" Claudette asked, her gaze shifting between the two of them, a subtle crease forming on her brow. Adele took a deep breath, squeezing Lucas's hand for reassurance. "Mon, this is Lucas. He's a French aid worker who has been stationed here in Port-au-Prince." She paused, her heart racing. "We've become quite close." Claudette's expression shifted from one of curiosity to something akin to disapproval. "A Frenchman?" she exclaimed, her voice laced with skepticism. "Adele, you know our family has always valued our Haitian heritage. How can you be with someone who does not understand our ways?" Adele felt the weight of her mother's words, the unspoken expectations and judgments they carried. She knew this moment would come, but standing here, face to face with her family's resistance, she couldn't help but feel a twinge of doubt creep into her mind. Lucas, sensing Adele's discomfort, stepped forward, offering Claudette a warm smile. "Madame, I understand your concerns. I may be French, but I have a deep respect for the Haitian culture and people. Adele has been teaching me so much, and I am truly honored to be a part of her life." Claudette's gaze softened momentarily, but the firm set of her jaw betrayed her lingering skepticism. "Well, I suppose we shall see," she replied, her tone clipped. She turned and called out, "Julien, come meet Adele's new friend." Adele's father, a stern-faced man with a weathered brow, emerged from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a dish towel. His eyes narrowed as he took in the sight of Lucas standing beside his daughter, and Adele felt a familiar sense of dread wash over her. "A Frenchman, you say?" Julien growled, his deep voice rumbling like distant thunder. "What business does he have here in our home?" Lucas straightened his posture, meeting Julien's gaze with an unwavering gaze. "Sir, I hope to one day call this place my home as well. I have come to Haiti to help, to learn, and to experience the richness of your culture. And in doing so, I have found myself drawn to your daughter." Julian's eyes narrowed further, and Adele could feel the tension in the room mounting. She squeezed Lucas's hand once more, silently urging him to tread carefully. "Drawn to her, you say?" Julien huffed, his thick brows knitting together. "And what exactly are your intentions with our Adele?" Adele's heart pounded in her chest as she waited for Lucas's response, the weight of her family's judgment palpable in the air. Lucas took a deep breath, his gaze unwavering. "Sir, I care deeply for your daughter. I know our cultures are different, and I respect that, but I believe that with patience and understanding, we can build a life together, one that honors both of our worlds." Julian's expression remained unconvinced, his arms crossed over his broad chest. "We shall see about that, Frenchman. Adele is a proud Haitian woman, and she has a responsibility to her family and her people. I will not have her throwing that all away for some passing fancy with a foreigner." Adele felt her stomach twist with unease, the words of her father cutting her like a knife. She had known this would not be easy, but the stark rejection she now faced was more than she had bargained for. Glancing at Lucas, she saw the conflict in his eyes, the desire to prove himself warring with the understanding that he was an outsider in this world. "Papa, please," Adele pleaded, her voice wavering. "Lucas is not a passing fancy. He is a good man and he cares for me. Can't you at least try to understand?" Julian's gaze softened momentarily at the sight of his daughter's distress, but the resolve in his expression remained steadfast. "Adele, you are my only daughter. I want what is best for you, and that means honoring our Haitian traditions. This Frenchman may seem charming now, but how can you be sure he will not leave you, or that he can truly understand our way of life?" Adele felt the weight of her father's words, the decades of cultural conditioning that had shaped his perspective. She knew that convincing him would not be easy, but for the first time, she truly understood the depth of the divide that separated her from Lucas. As the tense silence settled over the room, Adele realized that navigating this relationship would require more than just her own determination and Lucas's good intentions. It would take patience, compromise, and a deep, unwavering commitment to bridging the chasm between their worlds. Chapter 4: A Changing Perspective. The earth trembled, and the ground beneath their feet seemed to groan in protest. Adele's heart raced as she watched the city she loved crumble before her eyes. Shouts and the desperate cries of her fellow Haitians filled the air, a cacophony of fear and confusion. Amidst the chaos, Adele searched frantically for Lucas, her mind a whirlwind of emotions. They had been discussing their future when the earthquake struck, their nascent relationship now tested by the brutal realities of disaster. As the dust settled, Adele emerged from the ruins, coughing and covered in debris. Her eyes scanned the devastation, relief washing over her when she spotted Lucas, alive but shaken. They rushed to each other, embracing tightly, their differences forgotten in the face of shared trauma. In the aftermath, Adele and Lucas worked tirelessly, side by side, to aid their community. They distributed food and water, comforted the injured, and helped to clear the rubble that had once been homes and businesses. Adele's parents, initially skeptical of her relationship with the Frenchman, watched in awe as their daughter and this outsider worked with unwavering dedication to support their people. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an orange glow over the city, Adele's father approached Lucas. The older man's face, once etched with disapproval, now held a softened expression. "I owe you an apology, Lucas," he began, his deep voice carrying a weight of humility. "I misjudged you. I thought you were just another foreigner, come to exploit our land and our people. But I see now the depth of your commitment, the true care you have for Haiti and its people." Lucas listened, his eyes widening with surprise. "I understand your skepticism, sir. Believe me, I know how it must have appeared, but I have grown to love this country and the people in it as if they were my own." Adele's father nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "My daughter has always been strong-willed, determined to forge her own path. I see now that her heart has found its match in you." He placed a weathered hand on Lucas's shoulder. "You have earned my respect and the respect of our family. We welcome you, Lucas, as one of our own." Adele, who had been quietly observing the exchange, felt a surge of joy and relief wash over her. She had feared that her family would never accept Lucas, that their relationship would forever be strained by cultural differences and societal expectations. But in the aftermath of the earthquake, in the face of such profound loss and hardship, old prejudices had melted away, replaced by a newfound understanding and appreciation. As the days turned into weeks, Adele and Lucas found themselves drawn deeper into the rebuilding efforts in Port-au-Prince. They worked tirelessly, their partnership strengthened by their shared commitment to the city and its people. Adele's family, once wary of her foreign suitor, now embraced him as one of their own, marveling at the genuine care and respect he showed for Haitian culture. In the quiet moments they stole together, Adele and Lucas would reflect on the path that had led them to this point. The earthquake had shaken the foundations of their lives, but it had also forged an unbreakable bond between them. They had weathered the storm, their love emerging stronger and more resilient than ever before. As they looked towards the future, Adele and Lucas knew that the challenges they had faced would continue to shape their journey. But with the support of Adele's family and the shared vision they had built together, they were ready to embrace the next chapter of their lives, side by side.